ESPN's going to cover Travis Etienne all day, every day, twice a day, maybe 3 times a day. So you're going to get your big dose of Travis Etienne all season. I didn't really want to dig into that, type of player who's just done so well for 2 years, and we know he's going to just dominate again this year. We hope he dominates. I'm sure he will. But I wanted to get somebody who was outside the Heisman talk, maybe that ESPN's not going to talk about, somebody that was kind of looked at as like, oh, he's not ready, he's too skinny. Somebody who did really well that last year in the limited amount of time he had, and that's why I picked Lyn-J Dixon. I love him. So he started, I think he was like 5'11", and 177 pounds. Well, if you go and watch the spring game, and the running game was a little tough to watch on the spring game. It wasn't the best in the world for sure. But every time you have the spring game, what's next? You have the exit interviews. Well, guess what happened just a few weeks after the spring game? Some people started transferring out. Well, as we've talked on your show many times, Mark, the exit interviews are a big deal. Dabo Swinney is a very honest coach. We know that. And, he's going to have candid conversations with these players and tell them exactly where he thinks they fit in the depth chart in 2019. And all of a sudden, after one of those exit interviews, I believe, and I don't know for sure, but like I said, after the exit interviews, all of a sudden, Lyn-J Dixon is now thrust into the number 2 spot. I'm excited for him. Like I said, he started at 177. Per some notes I'm getting, per some things I'm getting from guys at practice, he's almost hitting 200 pounds now, and he plans to get to 210. If he's 5'11", you're talking 30-something pounds in just a couple of months. That's crazy to think how much, and we're not talking like hamburger pounds. We're not talking Big Macs. We're talking muscle, Ben Batson type stuff. And so what I would like to see is him obviously get to that 210 if he can. I think it's a stretch for sure, but for him to be almost at 200 or at 200 right now is a big jump for him. He's going to need to fill in for that Tavian Feaster type role where you do have to block for Trevor. That's a big deal. But what do you think about him? I'm excited. I think even with the added pounds, he's going to be electric.
So he had, I think it was 62 carries last year. So about 5 carries or 4 carries a game, 4 to 5 carries a game is all he was getting. 575 yards, 5 touchdowns. Okay, that's about the numbers he had. You figure he's going to double the amount of carries he gets this year. And if he stays on that same track, you're talking about 1,000-yard rusher, 10 TDs. I think you take that in any situation. And again, he's a little bit smaller. ETN runs with such force. And even though he's not the biggest back in the world, I don't think of ETN as a power back, right? I think of him as an explosive back. But he can run between the tackles and really bang him down. Lyn-J is going to get the ball. It's going to remind me, I think, a little bit of ETN as a freshman, where he was getting the ball late in games and the other team was worn down a little bit, and he was going out and hammering guys and then running past them. I think you're going to see Lyn-J benefit a little bit from that as ETN kind of becomes the feaster hammer that we've had the last couple of seasons. He's going to be doing a little bit more of the power running, still breaking the big runs, and then Lyn-J is going to be able to come in when maybe the second tier of defense is in, or maybe that defense is getting a little bit tired in the third and fourth quarter. And Lyn-J, as we've seen, you give him a little tiny slice, see you later. He's got incredible speed. He's such a fantastic athlete. I think there's a ton of upside with Lyn-J this year. And then also, ETN's going to get more carries as well, more than likely, unless a third back steps up over the course of fall practice. And I'm sure there will be a third back that gets some carries. But you're going to see ETN getting more carries as well, which is also beneficial. And then finally, Lyn-J can catch the ball out of the backfield. We haven't seen ETN do that as much. So it's going to be interesting to see if they dial up some of these screen plays, some of these wheel routes where you can get Lyn-J in space. And if you get him in space, you got a big problem on your hands if you're an opposing defense. So I'm really high on Lyn-J Dixon this season. And you can see him being the potential successor for ETN, assuming ETN leaves after this season, and really working his way into that role. I'm excited about his upside this year.
Yeah, he's got a ton of upside. Talk about his stats. You said 62 carries, 547 yards, 8.8 yards per carry. I mean, that's crazy. I looked at him compared to Tavian Feaster's freshman and sophomore and junior year. In just his freshman year as basically the third string guy, he had more yards and better yards per carry than Feaster's freshman and junior year. So he's definitely somebody who can be electric and who can dominate and just give you that burst out of the backfield. I kind of see a little bit of Andre Ellington. Maybe I'm off base there. I don't know. He's not. I think Andre is a little bit shorter. Yeah. But I see a little bit of a mixture between ETN and Andre. And it's interesting to see because you've got Wayne Gallman came in. He was like, Wayne was supposed to be the guy that was attached to whatever
Kimdichie.
his name, Kimdichie,
Yeah.
right? He was supposed to be attached to him, and he was just a supplemental recruiting commit, right? Well, he grew up under Tony Elliott and Jeff Scott and did really well towards his last season, right? Same thing with Travis. Travis, I saw a stat out there where Travis was like, I guess it was a note on Twitter where Travis was picked up like in January. Basically went there. Dabo talked to him one time, and it was like done deal. Boom. They also said that about Isaiah Simmons as well. Late January, Dabo comes in, and the Dabo factor, boom, it's deal. He got him, and look at him. 3-star, like high 3-star, 4-star guy on Rivals. ETN is just now a Heisman candidate. So it's kind of neat to see these guys develop. Even Feaster, I felt like Feaster developed into a better player. I think he's better than when he started. I felt like we had higher hopes with him getting 28 and being Mr. Football of South Carolina. But, I felt like he represented the university well and, progressed as his career went on. Obviously, I'm not gonna argue with anybody who says that we don't need Tavian back. I mean, Dabo would say we need Tavian back. I mean, he would take him back. He said it in April. I wish he wasn't transferring. So the stable, the depth of the running back position, it's going to hurt with him out. I mean, Tavian's a great player. We can't deny that. It's going to hurt emotionally for a lot of fans if he has to go to that team, 2 hours down the road. It's going to hurt. I hope he doesn't go there. I hope he goes to Virginia Tech instead. But I think that a lot of people need to give Lyn-J some credit. A lot of people say, well, Lyn-J can't take his spot because he's too skinny. Well, he was too skinny when you watched him against Boston College last year. This is like almost a year later and 30-something pounds later. So he's definitely going to show some people up and going to make his name known in the headlines. I look forward to it. So on paper, to me, I'm already seeing why he earned the number 2 spot. When I look at him, and you didn't really see much from him in the spring game, but when I look at his film, when I look at kind of how he's put in the time in the weight room, coupled with the fact that he's just, I think, more explosive than Feaster, I can see why he was the clear number 2 coming into the fall, this year.
Yeah, think about all the articles that we've read in the offseason. It's all about Trevor Lawrence, T. Higgins, and Justin Ross, right? How explosive is this offense going to be for Clemson? But the focus has been the pass game. You're not seeing as much about ETN. You're definitely not seeing a lot about Lyn-J Dixon. Just think about the season that Travis Etienne had last year and how successful the running game was for Clemson. This could be the greatest offense in Clemson history this year. And I feel like ETN and then definitely Lyn-J Dixon are almost an afterthought. Think about this. You're putting Higgins and Ross maybe on the same side of the field, running those guys down the field. You're going to have ETN and Lyn-J Dixon being guarded by linebackers, okay? If you can get them the ball out of the backfield, through the air, or even a running game, they make one of those guys miss, and it's big problems. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what the balance is because Clemson's very particular about the balance between run and pass, right? And you see a lot of games where they'll be, Clemson had 300 yards rushing and 300 yards passing. That's not by accident. You're just not hearing a ton about the run game here in the offseason. It's going to be massive again next year, and Lyn-J will be one of the big beneficiaries of that.
When Dabo said that that they want to be a running team first, I was like, yeah, right. Come on, you're just trying to get that running back recruit that you're going after. Yeah, right. It's all about the wide receivers, as Don Munson said. And I loved your show with Don Munson. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, it's on the Ring on 105.5 The Roar's Facebook page. Don Munson's 1-hour interview with him with Mark was amazing. I loved it. But he said Deshaun Watson and his frisbee catching dogs. Well, I think it's Trevor Lawrence and his frisbee catching dogs because of how exciting they are and they can just do everything. But if you really look at it statistically, I mean, Dabo held true to his word. He definitely wants a team that can pound the ball and not afraid to run it up the middle, not afraid to just run at you, no matter how good your defense is. And it really is. It does just wear you down so much more than the passing does. It's interesting how that works, but for whatever reason, the running game just beats. If you have a good running game going and you're rolling, 5-6 carries every time, you're just doing that, man, not only does it wear you down, but it demoralizes you big time.